I had one of the most exhilarating conversations with a community attender recently. Now, this was a guy who's done pretty well in business, but in the last few years, he's found his way back to God. He shows up every week at community, and he says, every week I find myself getting emotional, and I'm not really an emotional guy. And he loves the community he's experiencing. He's in a small group that's doing life together. He's also finding that he loves being generous. I mean, he's giving away more and more of what God's given him. And he's super passionate about the mission. I mean, so passionate now that he's strategizing how he can spend more time on the mission and less time at work. So I'm having this conversation, and throughout the conversation, he kept using this phrase over and over again. He just kept saying, I'm all in. He talked about his relationship with Jesus, and he said, I'm all in. And we talked about the mission. I want to spend more time there. He said, I just want to be all in. And we talked about generosity and some of the initiatives we have coming up. He said, listen, I'm all in. It got to the point where I just stop him and I'd say, did you know that our theme for this next ministry year is all in? And he had no idea. And then he said, I had no idea, but that's just how I feel. I feel all in. If there's one phrase that I'd like to describe this next ministry year, it's this phrase, all in. And here's why. I think God's looking for people who are all in. Look what it says in 2 Chronicles 16:9. It says this, the eyes of the Lord search the whole earth in order to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to Him. Now this scripture tells us something amazing about God, that He's always looking for people to strengthen. Other translations say mightily support. And the people He chooses to strengthen or mightily support are the ones who are completely committed to Him. He's looking for that in people. God's actually kind of looking for people who are all in. Now, as we look ahead to this next ministry year, this is going to be a year of exceptional opportunity. We're going to reach record numbers of people. We're going to actually bring restoration in unprecedented ways. We're going to reproduce this mission both locally and globally. We're going to help more people than ever find their way back to God. But it's going to take all of us, and it's going to take all of us being all in. And here's what that means. First, it means being all in with Jesus. We have to increase the spiritual temperature of our own lives. Now, we've equipped you with an 8-week Bible reading challenge, but you have to take ownership for that. You have to increase your own spiritual temperature of being all in with Jesus, and that is just foundational. Secondly, we need you to be all in on the mission. Last year, almost 3/4 of our small groups had a written mission statement and then were commissioned on a weekend. This year, we want to go for 100%. We want every one of our groups to be on mission. And that means you and your group being all in. Lastly, we have to be all in with our generosity. The Bible teaches us, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. And for many of us, this is the biggest test. But we need you to be all in with your generosity. And I want you to know, I am all in. And here's what I'm asking of everyone at Community. Will you join me and be all in?
Have you ever heard the term holy discontent? It's a term I've heard used by fellow Christ followers who are absolutely grateful for the things God's done in their lives, but at the same time they're experiencing a spirit-led discontentment for the way things are still yet to be. And so people will say, I am so grateful for what God's done in my life, but I have a holy discontent for something more. It's a good thing because it's a God thing. And that's exactly the place that our staff at Community Shorewood find ourselves today. Grateful for all that God's done, yet discontent until we pursue what God has in store for us next. And what God has in store for us next is going to require that everyone be all in. All in for a year of epic outreach, unprecedented restoration, and exponential reproduction. Together, we're going to reach people that we've never reached before. As many as 400 adults, students, and children who are far from God. This January, we're going to do a marketing campaign to the 50,000 households surrounding our campus. In total, 250,000 postcards are going to hit those mailboxes. Again, people who are far from God. And the return, we believe that hundreds more will begin to celebrate with us on the weekends. Together, we're going to have an opportunity to restore hundreds of families who have children with special needs. This year, we're partnering with Johnny and Friends. It's an organization that's dedicated to equipping churches to meet families who have children with special needs.
My daughter Elena, she's 12 now. She's wheelchair bound. She has very minimal use of all her limbs, and everybody was welcoming with open arms. And it was just, I felt like I was already had a family there, and it was home.
At the same time, we're going to come alongside families experiencing financial hardship, many of whom are single parents with barely one income. We are going to restore our community one family at a time. Together, we're going to reproduce dozens of groups, leaders, and contributors. We're going to position ourselves for a year of extraordinary growth. And along the way, we're going to reproduce a celebration service across our parking lot, and then by making a financial investment in our network. In the Yorkville campus in particular, we're going to position us to reproduce in the future. And if that wasn't enough, we're going to come together and be all in for our 6th year of Celebration Generosity, where our entire offering is invested into the 4 teams, each working to reach, to restore, and to reproduce the Jesus mission in others.
Through community, we have learned how to be generous people. We have learned how to be trusting of people. We have learned how to raise our children to love the Lord. We have learned how to respect one another in a marriage that has God centered in it. There is not an aspect of our life that this church and God has not touched. There is not one factor that we can say is the major thing. Everything in our life has changed. Absolutely everything.
It's going to be an extraordinary year, a year of being all in for Jesus, all in for His mission, and all in with our generosity. And when we are, our holy discontent will become praise and worship to our holy God. Shorewood is all in.